Yo, 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 you tuning into the Notion Podcast. I'm your host, Dizzy D Spill, with my co-host in the building.
Hello.
All right, man. Okay.
Jelani Evans.
And you are tuning into another laughable moment of Boss Talk, man. How you doing, bro? It's been a minute since we did a Boss Talk, bro.
I'm blessed.
I like the shirt, so I could definitely tell, man.
I'm just
because you kind of been laying off the graphic tees for a minute, but that one is actually pretty fresh right there.
I can't let this one go.
Oh, there's certain ones that are it's not happening.
Yeah, nah.
We're not doing that for sure.
Can't do it.
That's
How you feeling?
Cool, man. I'm ready for the weather to get consistent. I do know we have some pretty interesting topics, but I'm all right. You know what I'm saying? Like kosher, chill. Cool, steady. Oh yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Giving you that John Wick dialogue. Yeah.
I feel like that's mainly like that's like his main response to everything in all four movies.
Yeah.
Words from the Baba Yaga. Yeah. Yo, just getting right into it, man. You know what I'm saying? Wasting no time, brother. What are your thoughts and what do you think is going to happen with this consistent extension for TikTok, man? I know a lot of people make money off of it. I know a lot of people try to get their content seen. To be realistic, we get some pretty decent numbers on TikTok versus a lot of the other platforms. What are the chances, do you think, that they actually do sell to the U.S., with 40, 45, 47 giving another 75-day extension? Because I know it's lucrative, and I know we benefit off of it here in this country with influencers and businesses and stuff like that.
We back on this. All right, so...
Well, they just did the extension yesterday.
Well, all right, look. Gosh darn it. I haven't had any thoughts on TikTok, to be 100% honest with you, because I don't really use TikTok. Do I have an account? Yes. Do I post on there? Every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know that this specific podcast, The Notion, hey guys, we do good numbers on there. We get a lot of interaction, and that's wonderful. On the same breath, I almost feel like they might find a buyer. I mean, does anybody really want it?
I don't know. I mean,
you can't, what names are at the front of the running? You can't give me any, can you?
Nah, I can't.
Yeah, don't nobody know. So maybe.
Yeah.
The whole thing about it is this. When it first went down, when it first had its issues, why didn't everybody just abandon ship? And I don't mean everybody at TikTok. I mean all of the users and influencers, because at that point, you were put into the understanding that, hey, you don't have control over how you maneuver with your content or what you're doing as far as the platform goes. Yeah. It can come and go, get locked down, and if you delete the app and then you couldn't re-download it, right?
Yeah, so you couldn't.
Why continue to lean into something that can be snatched from you without your say? And that's out of your control, but you depend on for your livelihood. Like, I feel like people should have, shifted gears at that point. I don't really feel like people should be too dependent on TikTok. Whether it gets a buyer or not, I mean, that's cool if it does. If it doesn't, all right. I don't know. I'm not held up in it too. You know what I'm saying? I know it's lucrative. Not for me, so why do I care? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, people are having fun on it. I don't, so why do I, and I know there's a plethora of people like me who feel the same way. I know there's also people like, I scroll it every day. Get a life. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about it one way or the other, because we don't have control over it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. But the reality is, too, is we don't have control over any of these platforms.
Facts, but
You know what I mean?
they're also not being threatened.
Well, yeah, because they're all American based.
Boom.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's funny because, like, all right, they took TikTok, and then all of a sudden you hear about people gravitating towards another
yeah.
Asian-based app, and it's just like, you guys didn't learn your lessons. Find something that's based in the U.S. so you don't have to worry about the jeopardy of it being taken from you. You know what I'm saying? Or having to learn how to transition to, like, it just seems to make more sense.
It does make more sense. I just think that right now, with micro and small businesses and content creators, they're trying to find their space, whether it's YouTube Shorts, TikTok. I mean, you see the way people abandoned X, the minute Elon got on it and started doing all these changes.
But they can't do that with TikTok. Yeah. That's wild.
Well, I think that is kind of weird, but I think when you start talking about that dopamine hit that a lot of people get on something like TikTok, because you do see better numbers and interaction and things like that kind of get your hopes up of ascending to the next level or whatever it is you're trying to do, they get lost in that, and then they get dependent on it like a lot of people do, and it goes downhill. And I like the point that you made about getting too comfortable on the app and getting too comfortable with that being your stream of income, because it seems like in this day and age how fast people are making money on social media, and they get comfortable. It's almost like the dope game, right? People, they think it's always going to be there instead of planning for a rainy day, a forced exit, or, having to shift career paths and stuff like that.
Where is the dope game right now?
I do not know. I don't even know. I couldn't even give you the stats on how they're doing right now.
It's not out here. But I asked that to make a point, because at one point, dope game, like, nationwide, stay the same.
You don't even hear about it in the music really anymore.
No, because it's pretty much non-existent, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's taking a new identity.
More people are doing fentanyl than crack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is scary.
Right.
It's very scary.
And so it's kind of crazy, man, because that's the same. I asked you that question because it's like it faded out.
It's almost like you're not learning from other.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or it becomes compromised.
Right.
TikTok's been compromised.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as that happened, like, abandon ship. Only the captain should be going down with the ship, and don't none of y'all own it.
Nope. And still going down with it.
Bruh.
Well, I mean, for us, that's why I'm glad, like, with our platform, we're on multiple. I'm not going to say we're on all of them, because I do feel like with our platform, there's just certain apps that's like, why waste your time?
You know what? I'm on a lot of different apps, and we're talking about businesses.
Mm-hmm.
My business is on a lot of different apps.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones I truly care about is Google and Yelp. Yeah. Those are only two platforms I really care about, because that's where I make money. Like, you talking about dopamine hits, bro. I've been on social media. I'm like, oh, likes and comments. And I'm like, that's okay, but do you need services?
Mm-hmm.
Or can we talk business? If we're talking business, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I don't care about likes and comments, because that doesn't generate
It doesn't
funds
generate, it doesn't generate
you know what
funds.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not looking to create a whole lot of content trying to get views and shares so I can generate money through social media, because that's just pennies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to put in like so much work just to see a dollar. Yeah,
ain't nobody got time for that. It'd be different if I had a setup and I was working, but I'm not. I'm not trying to be known.
Or if word of mouth got there, because sometimes, you start out without those platforms, and then word of mouth, somebody does a review because of whatever, and then now you're kind of pushed into it, because it's like, oh, I didn't even realize I had a market here. You know what I'm saying? And that's probably the best route to go.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's organic.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really happen anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that's a rarity for sure.
Right.
Yeah. It is for sure. Yeah.
But that's also the difference, because what I do is service and kind of product based, right?
Right.
Everybody else is trying to get those numbers, the likes, the comments, the shares, the views, because that's how they're generating money.
Yeah, they're trying to get that first to hopefully get money.
Yeah.
And it's reversed for you. You're already kind of in that realm. So if you're going to even care about it, it needs to generate money like it's already been doing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be on Yelp more than I responding to.
Oh, you on TikTok? Yelp, what you talking about? It's popping over here.
What?
I got 4 clients I got to deal with.
Stupid.
You know what's interesting is that it almost seems like the way that you put it, that people are sleeping on personal websites. Because with the fact that you don't have any control over what's going on with, you know, you have a platform, you have a username, but you can be removed at any time. The app can be sold to anyone. It's almost like your best bet is to still have your personal website. And if you're going to navigate on all of these platforms, find a way to funnel that exposure to your website.
Well, I told you, like, back when I was really heavy on moving products, right? You know, the kids and different drops with clothing and whatnot. I had the website running consistently, and I was gathering emails up so I could operate through email marketing, because again, with social media, they also control the algorithm, so you can post all the content you want. It doesn't mean it's getting to the people you wanted to get to or really being seen on the level you wanted to, but when you operate as far as email marketing, you control how they get it, when they get it, and who it's being sent to.
Yep.
You know what I'm, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're creating your own algorithm.
100%.
Yeah.
And so if you looking to operate that way, then you're going to win because you have direct access to your target audience.
So now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy to me that people that do have a large platform on social media, it's like they're not trying to funnel that. You don't see that. You see people just, come check out my page. Even on YouTube, right? You see people when they're promoting something, they got a lot of numbers. They're just expecting everybody to come to the channel. And it's almost like, I know it's boring, man. But no, but for real, like it just seems like you would want, if I had 1 million or 2 million followers and I'm generating, tens of thousands of people engaging with my content, it would only be smart for me to say, hey, come check out my website. I have exclusive stuff here on my website. So, everybody that signs to my website will get a blah, blah, blah. Or the first 100 people, you know what I'm saying?
Think about this. So wild. Think about how I used to operate. Monthly newsletter. Monthly giveaways.
Right.
Information on drops.
Right.
Information on new releases for shoes. Like, no
ads. No junk mail. No BS. Because a lot of people that do operate that way, they're still having to deal with that. So I had to point it out. It was your information was straight to the point.
And I was trying to get to that tens of thousands of, but there was no word of mouth. There was no sharing. There was no appreciation. Bro, I had the same people winning every month because all you had to do was open a newsletter because I could see who opened it. People wouldn't even open the newsletter.
Yeah.
So after a while, you just stop.
Yeah.
But at least I put the effort out there. And what I'm saying is a lot of people don't put the effort out there. They wait till they get there to try to operate like that instead of operating like that before they get there.
Which is what you're supposed to do. I don't know where I got. I think I got it from. I know a book I got it from. But you're supposed to operate like you already reached the pinnacle of what you're trying to do.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, they wait. They think they don't even have a good reason for waiting. They just think that that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, they wait for the right time or until you get there, or they believe once they get to a certain point, things start clicking. It's almost like believing that once you get married, that's when you become a husband.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good analogy. You're already supposed to be operating like that. Relationship, engagement, wedding day, and so forth, right? You don't, it's like your first car. You're supposed to treat your first car like it's your dream car. So you know how to treat your dream car once you get it.
There it is.
But, What do we know, man? What do we know? What do we know? Well, a lot of people are benefiting off of social media. A lot of people are benefiting off of TikTok. Mainly, I'll say mainly Gen Z. And speaking of Gen Z, it looks like a lot of Gen Z graduates are having a hard time keeping a job.
Of course they are. You have to work.
Yeah. And basically, basically, the studies are saying that because from the article, let's see, looks like the article, Fortune.com. Bosses are firing Gen Z grads just months after hiring them, and here's what they say that needs to change. Now, I'm not gonna read the whole article, but I can
List off.
I can certainly paraphrase. Let's see. Let's list off what they're saying. Yes, I'll accept the cookies.
I like cookies.
Oh, for sure. It's a Cali thing. It says the reasons why these young, educated people
I
are
can tell
having
you
a
why.
hard time. You might beat me to it because
Lazy, unproductive,
lack of professionalism.
not
So
showing up on time.
not showing up on time, including meetings and just showing up to work. Proper work attire, proper language being used in your professional environment.
This meeting's mid.
Yeah, I can see somebody in a meeting talking about not too much on overtime, boss. But I think that I see it. And the crazy thing is they're talking about college graduates, right? But I see it just in the retail area of, like, say you're going to the grocery store and you see somebody that's fairly young, probably in the Gen Z age group. You ask them a question and it's almost like they don't even want to answer it.
Lack of motivation and initiative.
Yeah, that was another one. Lack of motivation and initiative. And it makes me wonder, like, well, what the hell's going on in college? What's being taught in college?
Unprofessional, unorganized, poor communication skills. Those are the top reasons.
Mm-hmm. The communication skills, I definitely see that.
Tangible challenges, including being late to work and meetings often, not wearing office-appropriate clothing, and using language not appropriate for the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, more than half the hiring managers have come to the conclusion that college grads are unprepared for the world of work.
Mm.
Meanwhile, over 20% say they can't handle the workload.
Now, that is interesting because the workload, I would think, would be easier because we're in the digital age.
Yeah, but
not saying they have it easy, but it seems easy to us based off of what we had to do, when we were around that age.
A lot of Gen Z kids that go to college, most of them are being put through college, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not working through college.
Yeah, that is true. In generations prior, did that.
9 times out of 10, they probably didn't have a job in high school because their parents wanted them to focus on their studies.
Yes, this is also true. I was working in high school.
So then it's like, how much real work experience grind do they have that has been instilled in them before they get into the real world with this degree?
That's a good point.
Only work that they have done is studying and tests in school, and they did that because they were looking to
So we could say that generation, to a certain degree, it's not all of it isn't their fault because of being misguided.
It's not misguided. They haven't been groomed. They got it easy, and the reason they got it easy, it's not their fault. You can't blame Gen Z. You have to blame the parents because a lot of the parents, because they had to grind, work hard, 2 jobs overnight, make things happen, sacrifice, and go without. They didn't want their kids to go through that. Right. So then they make it easy for their kids, not understanding that those things that they went through also developed character, personality, a work ethic, gave them integrity, gave them an understanding, and now they understand the value of things and how to work for things and why it's important to work for things, right? Mm-hmm. So they rob their children of that, and then their children get a cakewalk through school, get put through college, work hard through college. I'm not saying because
C's get degrees in college.
Because you have to. Yeah, true, but still, you still have to be there. You have to show up. You have to do the work to graduate.
True.
C's aren't easy. Once you get to college, bro.
Yeah.
They're easy in high school. Once you get to like college, not JCs. And nothing against them, but let's be serious. Like C's aren't easy in universities and grad. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so you still have to show up. You still have to do the work. Now, on the same ref, you graduate with C's, like that shows up. That cumulative GPA ain't looking great.
Yeah.
And that shows.
Yeah.
But now, after they graduate, they get out into the real world with this degree and they expect everything to be handed to them. And the only thing that's handed to them is a job title and a desk. Now they have to actually do the work.
Yeah, and the expectation is, okay, you've learned everything you need to learn about a job in college, which they haven't.
Yeah. I've learned all about this in theory, but I never actually worked a job because I had it easy.
And you know what's fascinating, right? When you look at like nurses, because that's more of a serious, field, they demonstrate. They have to they do labs and they do things that they would really do in the workforce, but it's not like that.
That's almost almost a bad comparison, bro.
You think so?
Nurses have to grind, and what I mean by that is like work, and school. I haven't met a nurse that just goes to school and no, they work and they go to school, and it's a grind because of the classes and like. It's not.
No. What I'm saying, I'm not saying a comparison. I'm saying you would think that they would lay out similar formats for other fields in college, for other majors in college. So it's like they have this is what you're going to have to do. It's not going to be a cakewalk when you get out there in the real world.
Yes and no.
You know what I'm saying?
Because of what nurses and doctors do and the type of stuff they have to go through, you have to prove. Because we talking life or death with nurses and doctors.
Yeah.
This is on a whole different level.
Yeah.
You have to, so you got to go through the labs, the lectures, the clinicals. You have to go through all of that because we need to make sure you know this stuff and you can execute, because we're going to be putting people's lives in your hands versus somebody that's dealing in tech.
Well, that's my point. My point is, when we say that it's not completely their fault, there's a lack of innovation in college. The price of college have went up over the past 30, 40, however so many years, right? But what hasn't went up is the innovation to prepare college graduates for the real world and how they're going to conduct themselves in their profession. Now, the hard part about that, and I understand there could be a challenge with that, is most of these people get these degrees and they don't even get a job in the profession that they got the degree in. Yeah, so then you have that issue too. So,
all right, let's address one at a time.
Okay.
And so I get what you're saying. The curriculum, the classes could be a little more interactive. They could involve more real world situations or labs or things of that nature to help prepare them for actual situations once they're working in those
similar
fields.
to trade schools. They have to work a certain amount of hours doing certain things.
Get a certain amount of experience. I get you. Okay. Yeah, because that is lacking. So, yes, I do 100% agree with that. And then the second part was
basically how a lot of these graduates, they get their degree and then they don't get into the profession that they got their degree in.
Right. And what I'll say, basically the lack of opportunities in the area that they got the degree in.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure.
While a lot of these degrees, these lanes are profitable, these fields, once you actually get into them, you also have to understand that people who got into them are still in those fields and they haven't let go of them jobs because of how lucrative, and profitable they are. So then it's almost like it's crowded in a sense.
Yep.
And if it's crowded, entry is difficult. And that is another issue that will have you doing something that doesn't pertain to your degree because you can't find an entry point in that field.
And that's why educators are very important, and it's very vital what type of educator you get to try to help you. To me, I think a good educator is going to kind of try to plan for what may be to come years after you get out of school. I'll give you an example. I have a relative that's a lawyer in Texas. Shout out to you, cousin, if you're watching. And what I thought was interesting was when I thought about it, I was like, okay, she's a lawyer. She's in Texas. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's practicing like immigration. Where's Texas close to? Mexico.
The border,
right? What's some of the issues that are transpiring right now? Citizenship, immigration, and all of these different things. So you're going to be busy right now. And you're going to probably always be busy because where you're at is right there by the border. Now, if she came up with that all on her own, genius. But there was probably some guidance somewhere like, hey, listen, a lot of people rush into this, rush into entertainment. They rush into criminal law and all this other stuff that's going to stress them out and have them gray still in their early 20s. But what if you practice this? This is consistent work. This is job security, whatever the case is. And I think if there were more influential educators directing like, hey, this is a lane that everybody's not running to address that crowded issue you were talking about.
it's not. I do you one better. Mentors.
Yeah.
Good
ones.
Well, the thing is, it's not even like there's a lack of mentors. There's a lack of people who are looking for or wanting to be mentored.
That is a huge problem too.
That's what it's a
lot of successful people have a mentor. Like a lot of successful people that we admire, we can pretty much say who their mentor was prior to the success, right?
Bro, I've heard people. There was one person specifically that was like, I spent so many dollars on mentors. But because of that, I made so much more, like exponentially more. It's like, I spent hundreds of thousands on mentors.
And I made tens of millions.
Yeah. But what I made because of the mentorship is
right.
It's worth it.
Right. You know what would be my question for somebody like that? Like, how challenging was it when you had to spend that money? Did you have that money to spend, or were you taking a gamble? You know what I'm saying? I think that's the luxury of having a mentor. You know what I'm saying? To be able to have those type of conversations, because that's that area that you don't really know how they went about it.
I don't really want to get too far off topic.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
But
you save it for the Patreon.
Nah, because I'm just like, even being able to acquire a mentor, you have to have access to certain people. You have to be in a certain realm to have access to somebody that's worth being mentored by, that possesses knowledge that you want to obtain. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you can't just find a mentor anywhere.
Nah, you can't.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
Like, somebody that's actually in a position to mentor you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy.
Well, I would definitely give my advice to people that are getting ready to graduate out of college. If I were y'all, I would be getting an internship my last year or two in college to understand how the workforce is and get some experience under your belt. And like you just mentioned, I would definitely be trying to search for a reliable and a valid mentor that actually, can show the success and the completion of certain things that you would need to do yourself before getting out there and thinking that it's going to be a walk in the park. Because right now, Gen Z has a very hard time.
But see, that was just
during hard times.
That was just talking about Gen Z graduates, right? What about those that don't go to college, that just kind of jump right into the workforce? Because they're even worse off because they're young, no work experience, no knowledge, no work ethic, no integrity. They're just outside.
Well, that's okay. So my issue with that is two things. They're going to learn the hard way. And then I'm also looking at these employers like, are y'all that desperate?
Yes. Yes, you know they are. You know what it's like. What do you mean? Yes. Like, because you have to understand something. If you hire an older person, that older person comes with what? Knowledge and expectations.
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You hire
And
a
if you're
young
the
person,
yeah,
they come with what? Energy and ignorance.
and no respect for authority. You gotta pick your poison, right?
9 times out of 10, the manager's gonna have to deal with that, or the shift leader. That's not. I won't have to deal with that. The shift leader will have to deal with that.
Yeah, it's. It's funny that when you see news articles that talk about the employment rate and people having a hard time with jobs, there's very rare details like this on discussing why it is. Because it's just a blanket statement like, oh, it's hard to find a job out there. But it's like, if for those people that are in the workforce currently, it's like, nah, actually, there's always vacancy at my job. Can't nobody hold a job.
Turnover rate is crazy.
Yeah, the turnover rate is wild. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in what we're saying. But
yeah, of course.
But the key factors is like, wow.
Gen Z struggling.
Yeah, they are. And you did make a good point, because they're struggling, not just, the ones coming out of college, but the ones, that never went.
They're struggling.
I didn't go.
Bro.
I'll be
like, you got to understand, it's really there's not too many out here who are having to go the rough way.
Yeah.
Or I don't even want to say the rough way, but having to grind in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like,
do you think there's never really been a great example of a healthy balance of when you're bringing a young person up and you want them to not lose focus on their books and education, however, you want them to build a good work ethic and good values and morals when it comes to earning an honest living? Has there ever really been a solid and healthy blueprint example of what that looks like? Because although the people prior to Gen Z having to do it differently than they're doing it, it still was hard as hell for a lot of people.
I worked and went to school.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I've been working since 15.
Yeah. I was 16. I didn't go to school though. I went straight to the bread. And I've had regrets with that too.
No, I mean, like, while I was in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My senior year, I started working my senior year. And I didn't choose to. I was voluntold.
Yeah.
But I'm appreciative.
My sophomore year.
Yeah, I'm appreciative of that. But the thing is like, when somebody is starting college, right? Like you've experienced, and you're working, that's a lot of pressure for a young person, right?
I guess.
A young person. Not all young people, right? So my thing is, okay, let's use you for an example. How did you have a healthy balance for your mental doing both college? Because you were a full-time student?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you manage, for it to not affect you mentally and physically, to where it's like, all right, I got to work my job and I got to take care of schoolwork and things of that nature?
Oh, bro, I was like Nike. I just did it. Straight up, like, I remember, like, one semester I was working security. I did graveyard. I worked from 12 to 8.
Okay.
And then I had class from 9 to 12.
Okay.
You feel me? Homework, sleep, do it all over again.
And you didn't have to work every day, right?
Yeah, pretty much full time. Yeah.
All right. I mean, that is the age where you should be doing it, because your energy is.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I had the energy for it, and it was just like.
Because thinking about it at our age, it's like, hell no. But back then,
that was my focus. It was just school and work.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, I didn't have too much else that I was trying to do or worried about or focused on or concerned with. Like, it was just school and work.
I kind of asked the ignorant question, and the reason why I'm thinking about it is because what do people do in college? Party. They party all night, right?
I didn't.
But what I'm saying is, a lot of energy is based on partying. It's lit,
yeah.
And then they'll have like an hour and a half of sleep or so and still make it to class. So if you could do that off of a hangover, then I could see what you had to do back then was just like, man, I just did that.
Yeah, it's just
Right. So yeah.
I wasn't out partying.
I had to think about it like, wait, hold on. They be partying all the time. So yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it was.
But you also had the discipline and the drive and the motivation.
Well, yeah, well,
which is what they were saying in the article that a lot of people are lacking.
It's not about half-assing with me. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to cat off and, you feel me, slack off at the job because that's not what I signed up to get a job for. I'm not going to mess around with the schooling because then my grades going to look funny and that's not what I'm going to school for.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do what I signed up for. I made commitments. I have responsibilities. So I'm tending to those.
Right. I mean,
now a lot of those things, those values, those morals were instilled in me, so I'm gonna operate differently. A lot of that stuff isn't being instilled.
Instead a lot of the youth. Yeah,
right. So it's different.
Yeah, it is. So, with you saying that, there's another stat out there, or I'll say a epidemic or whatever you guys want to name it, about a lot of the attendance of college from young black men. It's dropped significantly. A lot of us, I'll say, a lot of young black men are no longer attending college. Now, we got some reasons that we will go over, but before we get into those reasons and the information that we have, what's your take on that? What do you think happened with the younger black men to where it's like, nah.
They don't see the value in it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can go to trade school, learn something, and I'm still going to have to pay for trade school, but it's going to be significantly cheaper than college. And then I can, at a quicker rate, find employment in that field and make respectable amount of money. Why not just do that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be real. That was kind of my mentality when I got out of high school. And the reason why was some of the information that I have right here pertaining to that. I had those reasons, but I knew that me and school didn't get along. I never ditched anything like that, but just either I did, depending on the instructor, either I did really great or hello summer school. That was me. Is not a lack of intelligence or anything like that, but that was just my experience with school on top of going to different schools. But, you know, as a young man, the way I looked at it was like, man, it seems like cash is king. So I need to get to work, right? If I'm expected at my age I'm at to pay for my own gas, to get to work, find my own transportation, if I need new clothes or I need anything like that, I need money. And no matter how great my grades are, that's not going to generate money for my necessities.
You want me to go to school another 4 years and pay for that and put myself in debt in hopes of a job?
In hopes, that part. In hopes of a job.
That don't sound logical to most black males.
And I'm glad you said that because, and I don't want to get too far off into it. I just want to say this and keep it going. There's been this thing where, especially with young black men not going to college, like it's being highlighted as a super negative thing. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up and the reason why I don't like that is because we are also living in a time period where we're seeing a lot more business owners and entrepreneurs, right? And let's keep it 100. There's thousands of successful business owners that not only didn't go to college or didn't graduate college, but guess who they hire? College graduates, which is ironic, right? And I wanted to address it because before I get into information,
it's not ironic
that they hire college graduates.
College graduates are trained to be cogs in the wheel. In order for my machine to run, I need cogs.
Well, the reason why I say it's ironic is not that it's ironic for me, but it's ironic that people will perpetuate that narrative without thinking about what they're saying, because a lot of the things that we have the luxury of being able to utilize is from some form of a creative or an inventor that thought outside the box an outside of a dorm in a classroom with a college professor. They believed in whatever it is that they wanted to do, and they found a problem and created a solution for it. And I wanted to highlight that because we're seeing it every day in this era, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I see, because the first time I seen this conversation, it was Torre from BET. He did a video. He was talking about it, and he was saying what's going on, this, that, and the other. And it was more pertaining to the black colleges, the enrollment rate. And, of course, there's the ongoing narrative of, the black women are just skyrocketing up as far as in graduating college and stuff like that. And the thing that bothers me about when you hear these things is there's so much missing context in between those statements. Now, one of the things that I will say is I think it's great for people that do graduate college and go, right? I also think it's great that our sisters are going to college and graduating. But you know what context is missing, sir? Debt.
Hell of it.
Hella debt. 50, 80 to $100,000 worth of debt. So if you have $100,000 worth of debt because you have your master's or PhD and you're working a job that pays you $100,000, how long do you think it's going to take you to pay off that college debt? That's those student loans, which is going to affect you in the loan process of buying a home. It's going to affect your credit. And and I'm not deterring anybody from going to college. I'm just adding context. Is it possible that a lot of men, a lot of young men that aren't attending college are thinking about that and saying, I don't want to sign that.
I just told you that.
Yeah. So it's like,
bro, I went to college, right?
mm-hmm.
And I went to college off the string. As soon as they're talking about like having to pay, I bowed out. I'm not getting into debt like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was at 18.
How much debt do you have right now?
I don't have debt. I've been debt free for years. What do you mean? What? I don't have debt.
He laughs.
Bro, all right. I owe like $70 on one of my credit cards.
Yo, shut up, bro.
Okay. That's it. I don't have.
I owe $70.
Yeah, I don't, bro.
And I'm paying him $5 a month. I'm toying with him.
Nah, I just wait for them to be like, hey, you got payment due, and I'm like, bet I'll send 5 more than what the minimum is, and you guys can shut up. Like I don't really care, bro. Like, but nah, for real. Like, I think I paid off my debt at the age of 33, and It wasn't a whole lot, like, but it was just like I want to be debt free. I want financial freedom.
You want the control.
Yeah,
which has kind of been the theme of our conversation. I need control over my life. And
well, it makes things so much easier.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're looking, do you want to be paying into debt or do you want to be paying into retirement? Do you want to be allocating money into savings and brokerage account and trading stocks and like, you know what I'm saying? Like actually doing things with your money, or do you just want to be paying it, throwing it into a hole and saying, one day I won't be?
Yeah. Now,
there is good debt though.
Yes, there is good debt. Now, that's our take, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as in the information that we looked up, we have the low enrollment in 2021. Black men represented only 5.3% of all male college students. At many universities, black men make up less than 2% of the student body. Okay, fine. Cool. So what are some of the reasons? Underfunded K through 12 schools. Disproportionate discipline, meaning that a lot of young boys at very young ages, they're already getting kicked out of school. They're already getting suspended, which affects them academically, right? Economic pressure and college affordability, which is what we were just talking about. Pew Research Center is one of the sources, reports that 40% of black student cite costs as the top reason they don't pursue college. Black families on average have 1/10 the wealth of white families. Black students borrow more student loan debt on average and default at higher rates due to income disparities post-graduation.
Imagine
So,
that.
so when we talk about, which is what you said, not wanting to get into that, that's very intimidating. And then we talk about how we praise certain parts of our community that are in college. We're not giving context to what they're probably going to have to pay back and how many of them are going to default and could be in jeopardy of losing whatever assets they accumulate,
Yeah.
which
But
keeps us.
But the thing about it is like, all right, yeah, go to college, right? Go to college, get the degree, get into debt.
Mhm.
But didn't we state something before all of that?
Mhm.
The difficulty to get into the field with which your degree lies.
Exactly.
So there's no guarantee of being able to find employment after graduating, which prolongs you making money, which extends the amount of time you're in debt.
Yep.
Then let's go back to what you were talking about with the suspensions, expulsions, and things of that nature. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So as soon as you're done with high school, you think I'm going back to school?
Mm-hmm.
Stop it, stupid.
Lack of black male educators.
No motivation, no inspiration. Nobody that can relate to me or talk to me on a level where I can comprehend.
You know what my favorite one is out of all of these? Because I still have four more. I have school to prison pipeline, mental health and trauma. But this is my favorite one: cultural stigmas and media influence. The Opportunity and Agenda and Columbia University states black men are often overrepresented in media portrayals of crime and underrepresented represented in depictions of academic or professional success. Exposure to negative media stereotypes can influence self-esteem and reduce academic ambition. Now, what I thought was interesting about that is when you mix that all in with the other things I was saying, like trauma and stuff like that, there's something else that correlates with that. The pressure of being able to provide for your family, because a lot of black families are waiting on that one person that's educated and is going to have a good job or whatever the case is to come back and take care of mama and them, or take care of your siblings because you have no parents or because you were raised by your grandmother. There's so many moving parts to this, right? And that's all leaned on young black boys, young black men, while a lot of our young black ladies are being encouraged, are being groomed and guided to, hey, go get your degree, sister. Go do this, go do that. But a lot of young men who come from single mother households feel that, okay, now I've been a man in the house since I was 10. I got to take care of my mom. My mom is getting older. My mom's been working at Target and everywhere else for God knows how long. I can't just leave my mom behind. I got to get out here and I got to hit these streets, or I got to get out here and I got to work these jobs. All that context is missing when we say there's a low enrollment rate with young black men.
Crazy thing is, in some instances, there's a lot of pressure on the sisters to provide as well.
Oh, it is.
But they're given a certain level of understanding to go through that process that we are not, as far as males go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The successful black women, yeah, they definitely got pressure. They got the pressure taking care of their bills and taking care of grandma if grandma raised them, or if mom did it by herself, for sure. But like you said, there's a little bit more grace for them.
Oh, yeah.
And a little bit more support.
100%.
You know what I mean? Not so much on the young men's side of the tracks.
Although I got a lot of grace and support from mine, so I appreciate y'all.
We have one. but yeah, I mean, those are some of the numbers. And
I also execute though, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, of course. Now, what I thought was, it's funny because it segues into another thing that we're going to talk about before we get out of here, the Monopoly game. And I thought that was, I think it's interesting because, you know, we talk about in our diaspora in our community, how we're lacking this, we're lacking that. Most of us are familiar with the game Monopoly, but a lot of people don't understand that Monopoly is actually based off of a true story, right? You wanna let them know, or should I let them know?
I mean, we can back and forth.
All right,
It's
for
kind
sure.
of a lot of information.
Go for
You get ready for number two. I'll start off with number one.
it.
So the Monopoly was based on real streets in Atlantic City. The original Monopoly board was modeled after Atlantic City, New Jersey in the early 20th century. The properties are named after real streets in that city, such as Baltic Avenue, Marvin Gardens, and Boardwalk.
Okay, you'll be Styles P. I'll be Jada. For sure. The cheapest or the cheap property where in historically black or immigrant neighborhoods, Baltic Avenue and Mediterranean Avenue, the cheapest space on the board were based on areas of Atlantic City where black and immigrant communities live. The neighborhoods were under resourced, segregated, and redlined in real life, making their position on the board as the worst properties a reflection of actual racial disparities. Example, Baltic Avenue was a working class black neighborhood in the early 1900s, and many of its residents were excluded from economic opportunities available in wider, wealthier parts of the city.
That's where it get crazy. Monopoly's design mirrors the outcomes of racial capitalism. The structure of the game, where a few players accumulate all the wealth while others lose everything, parallels the history of American housing and wealth policies, redlining, blockbusting, housing discrimination, gentrification. These real-world policies created generational disparities in wealth, particularly for black families, just as in Monopoly, where losing early makes it nearly impossible to catch up.
Mm. Monopoly's origins were anti-monopoly. The original version of Monopoly was called the Landlord's Game, created in 1904 by Lizzie Magie, a progressive activist. Her vision was intended to criticize the dangers of wealth concentration and unchecked capitalism. She wanted to show how landowners enrich themselves while everyone else pays rent, reflecting the unfairness in real estate and power dynamics. Ironically, when Charles Darrow adopted it in Monopoly and sold it to Parker Brothers, the game became a celebration of the very capitalist hoarding Maggie warned us against.
The color line in the game reflects a social hierarchy. The color groups on the board, from purple, cheapest, to dark blue, Boardwalk and Park Place, correlate with wealth tiers and class distinctions. In reality, access to property ownership, mortgage loans, and even physical neighborhood placement was directly influenced by race-based housing policies and real estate practices well into the late 20th century. Supporting source material, Richard Rothstein, The Color of Law, details how government policy created racially segregated neighborhoods. Atlantic City Historical Society offers maps and documents that show how the real streets of Monopoly were mapped onto segregated districts. The Root and Smithsonian Magazine have published articles specifically drawing connections between Monopoly's property layout and racial inequity. That's wild, huh? You want to play Monopoly now?
Earful.
You want to play Monopoly now?
You know what's crazy is I was going to add a clip, but I decided to leave it out of two show hosts going back and forth about the disparities in the black community with redlining and stuff like that. And one host who was not of the black diaspora was calling BS, saying, where's the data? Where's the data and all this other stuff? But there was somebody that was trying to expose this over 100 years ago, and nobody listened. And now that very thing is being celebrated as crazy work, bro.
Redlining is a discriminatory practice where financial institutions, often banks, deny or limit access to financial services like mortgages and loans to residents of certain neighborhoods, typically those with a high concentration of racial or ethnic minorities based on their location rather than their individual creditworthiness. That's redlining, quick definition.
And that still happens to this day.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because you can be black. I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. You can be black and you can own an amazing home that you want to sell, and an appraiser can come in who may not be too fond of your lifestyle and the color of your skin and appraise your house for a lower rate, because this has been done. You can look it up on the internet. There's people that have done examples and demonstrations of this. And then if somebody of obviously a different hue can have that same home and it'll get appraised higher. It's actually been reported in a news article where a family, they went through that. So they had their white neighbor act as if they own their home, took all their photos down, and an appraiser came in and appraised their house for hundreds of thousands more than what it was originally appraised for. So on top of the college game that you might want to participate in, when you get into the real world as a person of our hue, you get to play Monopoly, because a lot of people thought it was just a game. No, it's real life.
But, well, I mean, it's surprising that, Monopoly is based on real life, but it's not surprising. And what I mean by based on real life, as far as in like mirroring Atlantic City.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the game has always mirrored real life. It's not. It's just wild that a lot of that stuff is still going on, and we're still dealing with it.
Oh yeah. Even with the certain progressions that have been made in our community.
Well, because all in the same regards to the progressions, there's a certain language we don't speak.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's a certain language we don't speak. There's certain keywords and terminology that we are not privy to.
And we over celebrate mild milestones.
Well, yeah. And I was actually having a conversation with my sister about that. Like, she was pointing to something that I had achieved or overcame, but I was like, yo, I'm not holding on to that or looking at that, because I feel like not only is that in the past, me speaking on that is like looking back. We looking forward. Like, that was cool. That was good.
Forward progress.
That's great. But now I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
What's next from here? How we moving from here? How we, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah.
When you were reading, or when we were reading about like the disproportionate stuff, I started to laugh a little bit because of how true it is from my memories of playing Monopoly. And I think I shared this story with you. And big bro, I hope you're listening. We had a family, like Monopoly can really break up, can damn near break up a family, all right? But there was a story, it was me, my two older brothers, and my cousins we were playing. And my brother was the capitalist in this game. My brother Wayne. And bro was putting hotels, like the strip that you start on. Bro had like 6 or 7 hotels on that whole strip. So you were going to land on one of them. And every time he was going around and he had his money, he was just like, put another hotel. And like my older brother was getting pissed because he just was having the luck of rolling on all his property. So my brother's like, he goes around the board, he puts another hotel down. It's like, yeah, man, I'm about to collect, bro. I got it looking like the Magnolia Projects over here. You feel me? Older brother rolls a 3. Go ahead, pay up, bro. Rolls like a 2. He's just hitting almost every property.
He's just walking down the block.
Bro, and the anger, it's just like, bro. So when I reflect on that story, because my older brother quit. He was like, I'm just going to play Tiger Woods golf. And then he got mopped up by my nephew, my older brother's son. And so he was like done. He was ready to leave. Like, I don't even want to stay with y'all tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Bruh.
Yeah. So it wasn't his night, but something as small as a game, right? Like, I take it as being antagonized when sometimes people have a tendency that are not from our community to call us angry and bitter and every name in the book that media will paint us out to be, when all you got to do is play Monopoly and be on the wrong side of the game to just get an idea of what the hell we deal with every day. You feel me? Just to get an idea. Be on the wrong side of a Monopoly game. You'll get an idea. I'm not even going to say you'll get the feeling, because you don't know nothing about it, but you'll get an idea of what we deal with on a regular basis. But I digress, man. I hope you guys have fun playing Monopoly. We finna get up out of here.
When was the last time you played Monopoly?
I have a game, and it's still wrapped up in the original packaging. It's a digital version too. We have debit cards and stuff like that. So if you want to get into a little bit of a game of capitalism and oppression, let me know, man. We'll play some Monopoly.
I'm actually doing that now. Living life.
Anyways, man, you've been tuning in to the Notion Podcast. I'm your host, Dizzy D. Spill, with my co-host in the building,
Jelani Evans.
and you've been tuning in to a great episode of Boss Talk. Let us know what you think. Share your comments. Share all of that stuff on all of our platforms. And until next time,
They've been sharing comments.
Oh yeah, for sure.